Hi everyone, long time no see, it's Vesper. For those of you who don't already know, Sage at Herb Dino has recently started a non-binary YouTuber collab project. And it's a project to help bring non-binary YouTubers together and create a sense of community. So I highly recommend that you check it out, especially if you're non-binary yourself, if you're interested in participating. By uploading a video, participating in the Twitter group chats, whatever. Definitely check out the link in the video or in the video description. This video is actually a submission to that collab project, to the second video in that project, and the theme this time is transition. And I know that my subscribers have probably heard me talk about this a lot, numerous times, depending on how long you've been subscribed to me. So I thought about making this video unlisted and just linking it to Sage, but I might as well make my own video out of it and put it on this channel and promote NonBinaryYT at the same time, so yeah, let's do it. Question 1. Do you identify as trans and what does that mean to you? I personally don't identify as trans and I never have in the 4 years that I've identified as non-binary. As for what trans means to me, that's a difficult question because I hesitate to define something that I don't personally identify as. But a common definition of trans is someone whose gender or sex differs from the gender or sex they were assigned at birth. Based on that definition of trans can totally describe me, but a definition is one thing and an identity is another thing, and there are just some related aspects of trans identity, such as narratives, assumptions, implications, even linguistic stuff, that makes it uncomfortable for me to identify as trans because I actively disassociate with some of those things. So while yes, the word trans may describe me, I never refer to myself as trans, even though other people do refer to me as trans. And sometimes I actively correct people when they refer to me as trans, sometimes I let it slide. It depends on the person, the situation, the context, a million different things, even just whether I feel like dealing with that or not. Sadly, a lot of the resources and awareness that I need as a non-binary person are actively or explicitly tied to the word trans. Sometimes with non-binary added on, tacked onto the side, sometimes with non-binary treated as if it's synonymous with being trans. And so yeah, even though I don't identify as trans, sometimes I have to overlook that just to access things that I need or that are relevant to me. Sometimes my own agency over my identity and my lack of trans identity, I have to put that to the side because otherwise I would not be acknowledged, I would not have access to things that I need, etc. And it's just really, yeah, not good. Question 2. What did coming out for the first time look like for you? In terms of gender, obviously the first time I came out involved coming out to myself, but after that it was coming out online on LiveJournal where I blogged for years. And I discovered the word non-binary while doing general research on the word transgender, and the second I found non-binary, it was instantaneous happiness. I was so happy. There was zero questioning, zero hesitation. Finally, there was something that told me, that reassured me that there are more genders than just male and female, and that meant so much to me because literally up until that point I was just defaulting to female because I knew that I wasn't male, so I assumed I had to be female even though that didn't feel right. And finally there was just something that told me, you know, you don't have to default to female because there's more than just female and male. It meant so much, revolutionary. I immediately did more research into non-binary genders and I couldn't find anything that felt entirely right, so eventually I settled on Neutra, also known as Neutrois, and I identified as that for 2 years until it became too uncomfortable to do so, at which point I coined the word maverick, and that's how I identify today. Question 3. What has changed for you since you came out and/or transitioned? There's a lot that hasn't changed over the years, but my feelings on some things have changed. So for example, I still actively disidentify with and dislike the word transition in relation to myself, and I still really dislike how transition is used almost exclusively to talk about medical stuff as if that's the only way that a person might transition. My annoyance and disidentification with the word transition in relation to myself is why I always put it in quotes and why I'm going to be using air quotes a lot in this video. But just in case I get lazy and I don't do air quotes, know that they're always there in my head if I'm talking about myself and using that word. Anyway, my feelings in relation to socially transitioning have more or less remained the same. But in terms of medical stuff, my feelings have changed, and I feel like that is tied to changes in regarding my experience of dysphoria, both social and physical dysphoria. So for example, I've always wanted a hysterectomy. The second I knew that was an option for me, I wanted it. But in terms of HRT or top surgery, I used to never give that any thought. I never thought I would pursue those things. But now, I'm very much actively looking into low-dose HRT. In fact, I'm like counting the months on my calendar to when I could possibly start it. And I'm also actively thinking about top surgery. And yeah, if you look back 3 years on my channel, I was not talking about or thinking about that at all. So that is a big change. In terms of social stuff, I used to be a lot more comfortable with my given name and my binary pronouns that were assigned to me. But now, since I've been out, the more people use my actual name and pronouns, the more I experience gender euphoria, the more dysphoric my given name and the old pronouns become. And now I'm like at the point where I can't stand either of them. Question 4. Do you feel like transition is an ongoing process or something that you can complete? This is a tricky question for me to answer because I don't view myself as transitioning. I am not going from point A to point B, so in my mind there is no process that's ongoing or to be completed. And especially as a non-binary person, what would B even look like? What would complete even mean? I mean, even for a binary trans person, complete? What would that even mean? I don't know. This is just another thing, an implication of trans identity that I actively disidentify with. But anyway, to backtrack and take that question less literally, I feel like I will forever be growing as a person. And so even if I never change as a person, even if my gender never changes, I will forever be learning more about myself. I will forever be experiencing new things and new feelings. And in that regard, my experience with my gender and everything related to it will forever be ongoing, so long as my life is ongoing. Question 5. Any other thoughts? I just want to be perfectly clear that even though I do not personally identify as trans, and I very much dislike the word transition in reference to myself, I do 100% fully support those who do embrace those words and who do identify in that way. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, I sometimes feel conflicted about not identifying as trans because it feels like by disidentifying as trans, that inadvertently flies in the face of all those who worked and fought so hard for everything that we have today regarding transgender identity, trans rights, awareness, everything. Historically, the word transgender was always meant to be inclusive of people like me, long before the words genderqueer or non-binary even existed. So the fact that that word, that community, that identity that was always meant to be inclusive of people like me now feels so distant to someone like me, or to me specifically, is really fucking sad, I think. But it is what it is at the moment, and yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about this topic, but I'm gonna have to save those feelings for another time. Anyways, as always, thank you for watching and listening to me ramble about shit that probably doesn't even matter to most people. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.